Right, so I was going to talk about deep self-care. And like I said, I've been thinking about this quite a bit because this goes across a number of things. If you're doing any behaviour that you're not really happy with, like if you're feeling either low and you're feeling that it's hard to get out of a cycle of depression and feeling low, or if you're eating a lot, or if you've got into other behaviours that are quite negative and self-harming, and drinking is obviously one of those that we use, then getting out of that, it doesn't just take one thing, unfortunately. It doesn't just take willpower. It doesn't just take having a good plan, although we know that having a good plan can really help you get started and get the momentum going. But it actually also takes some understanding that you are doing something quite difficult, and understanding that in your head you've got another voice that's constantly trying to take you off track, and that other voice is you, it's your subconscious. But it's really a pain in the arse, if you ask me, and it's always trying to push you off track. So you're not only trying to deal with the fact that you're used to picking up a drink when you get home at 6 o'clock or whenever you go out, and try and deal with that trigger of time of day and people and places and things, but you're also trying to deal with an internal monologue that's always putting you off course. And the problem with that internal monologue is it knows you really well because it's you, and it has all of the tools at its disposal, knows where all the buttons are to press when it wants to. And that's what makes it really hard and difficult. And as I've said before, the way to deal with that is over time, what you're trying to do is to deal with the hard wiring that's happened from years and years of using alcohol for every single emotional and stressful situation, or even any happy situation. You're trying to deal with that unwiring, and it's a constant battle between the subconscious part of you that's trying to say, oh no, we preferred it as it was, alongside the subconscious bit of you that says, well, actually we need to deal with this. I don't need, having a drink to make myself feel better is a completely lunatic solution, because there's nothing about drink that can make you feel better. So you've got these two sides of you always competing, and that subconscious, that negative voice is very strong, is very dominant, and can really push you off course because it has all the information about you that you need. It's okay, Sophie. Sorry, just to let you know, I edit out all of the congratulations bits, so they won't be in the YouTube video, Sophie. So just want you to know that, just to reassure you. But anyway, so that negative voice has all the tools, and we feed that negative voice. We feed that negative voice with all sorts of limiting self-beliefs that we have to unpick. We often think we're not good enough. We often think we're not a good enough parent, we're not good enough at work, we're not a good enough partner, we're not a good enough colleague. So what's the point? I may as well have a drink. Or I'm feeling low, I'm feeling tired, I don't have enough energy, I don't have enough energy for this fight. So what's the point of trying? Have a drink. I just I've been starting to write a list of my own self-limiting beliefs, but I think that feeling of worth is one of those really limiting self-beliefs, and we often use those beliefs as a way to threaten ourselves into trying to do better. So, I won't be a good person unless I do deal with drinking, because I am this terrible person. I'm not good around the house. I never do the cleaning. I never wash up. I'm taking off these ridiculously hot socks, by the way. I don't do all these things. So we beat ourselves up for not being the person that we think we should be. That feeds into that negative voice that says, well, why bother? Come on, you really enjoyed yourself when you were having a drink. And all the time, what we're doing is we're actually bruising ourselves. We're bullying ourselves. We are talking to ourselves in a way that we would never talk to other people. So why are we talking to ourselves in this way? And instead of giving ourselves the encouragement we need to change, we're constantly niggling at ourselves and putting ourselves down. Gosh, we don't need other people. We're really good at doing it ourselves. So that idea that we've got these self-beliefs that feed into this negative voice that actually means that we're creating a really negative bullying environment for ourselves is actually quite an interesting thing to unpick. So if you use force, and if you use the idea that deprivation is a terrible thing, and if we always use the fact that we're ashamed then as tools to try and help us give up drinking, all those negative things, then actually we make it harder for those things to stick, because what we've done is we're trying to use real negative emotions and negative things about ourselves to try and make change, when actually we need to start looking at the positives of who we are. What are the assets that we bring to this journey? And if you were thinking like when you might be doing some study, or when you might be starting a new job, or when you might want to learn something new, we know that we don't know something, and we take steps to learn and develop what we need in order to learn to do a task. If you want to learn to do Excel spreadsheets, you might want to go on YouTube, and we recognise what we don't know, and then we build up the skills. And actually learning and having that ability to do that is a skill in itself. But when it comes to wanting to change some of our most damaging behaviours, we don't see this as a very similar journey, but actually it is. What we need to do is learn new skills and techniques and new and get advice and recommendations from other people about what may help us get from A to B. See it as a journey where we're learning lots, and instead of starting that process of thinking, well, I can't do this because I'm just not that sort of person, I'm terrible, I don't read, I'm not clever enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not all of these things, I don't have the energy. Instead of starting from that point, you could start by looking at the assets that you have as an individual that would take you on this journey to give you the tools that you need. Just like you would that excitement you used to feel at the start of learning something new, be it learning how to do stand-up comedy, be it learning how to do a piece of art, be it learning how to, do something on a computer. So first of all, I would like you all over the next week to sit and have a think about those self-limiting beliefs that aren't really true, that you use all the time. And I do it all the time, and particularly when I'm tired, it's easy to always go into your own negative traits. But start writing them down and start saying, well, logically, is that true? Who's saying this? Has anybody said that to me? I bet you nobody has said to you that you're thick and stupid, and nobody said that you're no fun to be with, and nobody said that you couldn't possibly read to the end of a book, and nobody has said any of these things. So why are you putting those negative traits onto yourself? It's completely madness, because what you're doing by doing that is stopping yourself ever being in a position to have the tools to learn the tools you need to get you through this journey of changing your drinking. So start to write down some of those self-limiting beliefs and start to use a bit of logic and go, really, is that true? Or am I just being a dick? Which is probably, oh, actually, that's quite a negative belief, isn't it? I shouldn't really. No, am I being too hard on myself? And are there some positive traits that I can have? So for me, I need to, stop thinking that I can't possibly be loved by anybody. And I need to stop thinking that I'm a terrible daughter and granddaughter because I don't see my grandparents enough. And I need to stop thinking that, I'm terrible because I don't have enough time in the day to be on the Facebook group. All of these things feed into me then wanting to go into a negative spiral of, well, I'm going to make myself feel better by having a drink, or I make myself feel better by having a packet of sweets, or any of those things that we do that then spiral us into more negative behaviour. You can't do positive change on the back of lots of negative thoughts. So start to challenge those self-limiting beliefs that you have, and start realising that the only person that's putting them on you is you. And don't forget that all those cocky people you see out there in the world who seem to have it all sussed are actually just faking it. They're just faking this mega view of success, and underneath they've also got their own self-limiting beliefs. And if you can get over those, then you can do more, and you can begin to challenge your own behaviour. And then you can move yourself to being in some positive self-beliefs, because starting positive change from a positive place has to be better, right? realizing that you've got loads of assets means that you can begin to ignore that voice in the back of your head that says you can't possibly do this. And you can go, well, I can, because do you know that I'm actually quite good at learning things? You know, I've got common sense. If something needs doing, normally I will get off my arse and I will work out how to do it and get it done. So if I take that as a positive trait of myself, how can I get off my arse and do the things that I need to do? I need to do some more learning. What is it that trigger me into having a drink? What is it that triggers me into feeling sorry for myself when I haven't got a drink? What is it that makes me feel I'm missing out on events? Because I can learn my way out of this, because I have the skill of learning. Go and start to list all of those positive traits you have. And if you're not sure, ask your friends on Facebook. You don't have to tell them why you're doing it, but I've actually seen it happen a few times where people are going, I'm reevaluating my life and my career and the things that I'm doing. Sometimes I'm not so good at seeing what the positives are about myself. How could some of you just tell me what it is that you think I'm good at? I went back and looked at some 360-degree feedback that I got from work nearly 10 years ago, and I looked at some of that. Did a few personality tests. They tell me that what I'm good at. They say to me that while I'm not, you know, the person who's going to go and read in fine detail the accounts, I am the person that will probably take action to make things happen when they're not right. I'm an activator, and that's actually a very positive trait. I want to fix something, therefore I go and take action. I work out what to do next. I'll actually post on the Facebook group a whole list of positive traits that there are, but begin to list yours. So has anybody else got positive traits? Now, see, I know that you all have, because I've seen the way that you comment on each other's posts in the group, and that in itself tells a lot about positive traits of you, about the way that you handle somebody else's crisis, that the way that you give advice, the way that actually loads of you go off and find really good posts elsewhere that answer questions for people, even if you don't know the answer. So you've already got tons of assets that will help you on your journey to do this. So self-limiting beliefs list, blah, 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 blah. Go, really, are these true, or am I making them all up? Is it my little inner voice telling me all these things in order to push me off course? And then make a list of your positive traits and your positive attributes that you have got. And don't be too hard on yourself, because actually you've got loads, and you know, you do them every day. Even if you manage to juggle 100 things in a day that makes you feel very tired, wow, you're somebody that can juggle 100 things in a day. So maybe that might give you a clue on what you can do in order to make your drinking goals stick. I hope that makes sense, everybody. Gonna do it right now. Go on, Kerry. Go and see, Kerry's an activator. She's gone, right, I've heard something, I'm gonna do something about it. But how do we use this knowledge? Because I think knowing how you self-limit yourself is quite interesting, because it means that you can begin to challenge that inner voice with logic. So when your inner voice is going, oh, well, you can never stick at anything, so why are you bothering? You go, well, actually, that's not true. I can stick to A, B, and C, and I've done that before, and I've already done more days sober this year than I did last year. So actually, negative inner voice, I'm going to quash you and stop you there before you derail me. So knowing that's quite important. But knowing your assets, knowing your positives, means that you can also begin to look at the actions that you can take that are better for you. And we've talked about some of those lighter things before. Well, I don't call them lighter things, but some of the shorter term things that you can do that you know make you feel happy. Having a bath, lighting scented candles, cooking a really nice meal from scratch. We've talked about all of those as self-care things that are also really good distractions that will also put a big smile on your face. But I've been thinking today how I need to go into a bit more of a deeper level of self-care, and thinking about the things that I might need to practice over the longer term that may make my progress more solid, that will means that I don't just come out of this journey that I am on to change my drinking, having changed my drinking, but I've actually progressed in my personal skills about dealing with behaviour change, or being able to achieve behaviour change for the longer term. And bring more positives along with me. So you're not only dragging along the alcohol in that sack of change with you, but you're looking at all the other things that you can change that can help underpin it. because we all know, and we've seen it on the Facebook group as well, that once you give up drinking, life doesn't just become magically perfect. You then have to deal with life in high definition and feel all these emotions. And actually, you can begin to build some resilience to do that. So, deep self-care. Wait a minute, I've written some more notes. Hang on a minute. So, deep self-care. So, number one on deep self-care is beginning to recognise those self-limiting beliefs and begin to quash them with logic, and take time to stop and recognise that that's what your internal monologue is doing. So whenever next time you want to put a down on yourself, take a pause, think it through logically, and then tell that really self-limiting negative voice to get out of your head, because it isn't actually true. Then another piece of practice of self-care is to say, well, actually, I am really good at A, B, and C. So if I want to achieve my drinking goal, rather than listen to that self-limiting belief, I'm going to do A, B, or C instead. I'm going to, read some blogs that might help me think through this a bit more. I might do some mindfulness that might help clear my mind and take my mind off things. I might do some other things, and we'll come on to those in a minute. But I see these things as a practice. They're not something you're going to get right just by reading a book one day. They are things you're going to do well at because you will reflect on that book every day, or you will think about the things that the book told you every day, or you will do some of the practices that a book may have told you or not told you every day. And over time, you will build up skills and resilience to take your drinking goal into the long term. So what sort of things can we do for self-care? So that we can practice? And I'm not sure if I've got the answers to this, guys. So I was hoping that some of you might just want to help me with this. But some of the things I think are longer term, I keep doing bits of yoga. And the one time that I did yoga for 2 months, nearly every day for 2 months, I noticed a really subtle but powerful shift in myself. It wasn't a massive eureka moment, but I did feel a shift. Now, actually, what was it that made that happen? Well, I was taking some time just for me. I was going slowly, which for me is a really big challenge. I was being in a quiet room that wasn't with any technology, and I was breathing very deeply in a way that I never thought I could. So I could go back and do some yoga practice as deep self-care and see that as a practice that helps me achieve my drinking goal in the long term. Or I could unpick that a bit and say, what was good about that? Well, actually, having technology off for an hour in the middle of the day, not just at the end of the day, but the middle of the day was also really good. Taking some time to just be quiet and still was also really good. So I think I need to start incorporating some of those things back in my life. I'm also aware that Yusi's listening to this. He's probably going to hold me to them later as well. So that's one element of self-care. The other bit of self-care is around making food. I always feel a lot happier when I plan and make my food, and I make something that I think is really tasty. Not just that it's fuel, but that it's really tasty. So is that a bit of deep self-care that I can take in? I've also started to read. I've been really bad at reading. I'm really bad at reading self-help books. In fact, I'm sure if I'd really realised that I was bad at reading self-help books, I might have been able to deal with my drinking sooner. Instead, what I did was a massive library of self-help books about drinking that I never read. And on top of my shame about drinking, I had this massive guilt about the fact that I bought all these books and never read them, and therefore I was never contributing to my own success. And that's why I decided to go off and do something about it that was more tangible. But I decided that that actually I do need to read some more of these books, and not books that are directly related to the problem I'm trying to solve, but books that talk around the wider issues of understanding my mental state and understanding me as I age and get older, and all those sorts of things. And rather than trying to create this really high achievement of like reading a book a week, I'm just going to read 10 minutes every day, just 10 minutes. That's all it needs. But if I do that, I'm going to get through a book, whereas before I wouldn't get through a book at all. And then if I come back to the fact that as an extrovert, I get a lot from being in a room and on the Facebook group with other people. And so I know that for me to change habits and behaviours, going and doing things with other people in a group setting really helps. And so that's why I started and signed up for my my script writing course, playwriting course. Again, it's not directly related to my drinking, but when I went back and started to look at my self-limiting beliefs and started to look at the things that made me happy and started to look at the things that I'm really quite good at or that energize me and really get me going, they're not all things that are necessarily related to my drinking, but they're things that energize me and will propel me forward so that I can feel like I'm the person that I want to be. And this is all about us feeling like the person that we feel that we want to be and could be. And we're not just one-dimensional. We're not only about our drinking. Our drinking has dominated all of this stuff, but underneath is a load of things that have motivated us throughout our life, that have made us make the decisions that we have in our life, and we need to let some of those come back to the surface again and allow them to help us achieve our goal, to propel us forward. Those are our positive attributes. Go back and think, 10, 20 years about the things that used to motivate you and excite you and the things that your teachers used to say on your school report. I can tell you that for the entirety of my school career, that my teacher said Laura rushes too much. And it took me only till about 10 years ago to realise that A, that was never going to change, and B, in some ways that's an attribute. And as long as I can recognise that sometimes I don't need to rush quite as much, which is also an attribute, then actually the fact that I do things often quickly can help propel things forward. It means I take action. I don't dwell and dawdle on these things. So start to list your positives, start to list the things that make you happy, and start to develop a practice. Things that you can practice over the course of 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 years, that will help move you forward in this journey. Excellent. So Sophie shared a podcast, which I will put on the bottom of the screen. And Kindle books, yes, I must say Kindle books have really helped me get through self-help books a lot better, because I skip the boring bits. Should I say that? If they're American self-help books, I also skip the overly chattery, over-familiar bits and the repetitive bits, which is probably why I have not yet written a book about drinking, because it would probably be a bit like the books that I've put in the files section. They'd be really short and to the point. Here's some ideas, go and do them. And no chatty stories around the side. I think that's probably the case. Anyway, so do any of you have any ideas around deep self-care? Okay. Sophie's a people wrangler. I think we might need to unpick that, Sophie. Maybe we'll need to write us a blog about what being a people wrangler is. I think that's probably a really good idea. Okay. Oh, Rachel, yes, and the preachy bits. I didn't like to say. And if any of those books, get a bit too moralistic, I skip those bits as well. Skip. And did you know on Kindle, you can also see the other bits that other people who've read that book have highlighted. So if you're being really lazy, you could go and read those bits first to see what other people found interesting. Not that, I go for shortcuts. Maybe I might do. Okay, so I'd like you to start thinking about deep self-care, things that you can practice over a period of time that will draw you through this difficult period. I'd like you to share those. I would like you to share positively some of the things that you think are attributes on the Facebook group, and also think through some of the things that you think might be those negative self-beliefs that have been damping you down. Let them out. I feel you sort of need to release those self-limiting beliefs so that they're out there and they're no longer inside you. They've gone out. But you also need to release your attributes and let other people know them, because you should be bold about the things that you're good at, and you should allow people to agree with you about the things that you are good at. So I think these all benefit from being released out into the wild and being shared. Meditation, massage, yeah, not just one massage, but a massage, every week for a month, holistic treatments and healthy food. All of those are really good, deep self-care. I'm going to try and find some more examples over the next few weeks. I think it's going to be a blog I'd like to work on over a few weeks that we can come back to. But I think that's all for today. Has anybody got any questions that they might want to ask about anything that isn't about deep self? Well, you can ask about deep self-care as well, but anything that isn't about deep self-care that's been troubling you this week that you might want an answer to before we check off. And I can have some more cascara. I'm going to have to go and do meditation now because I said I was going to do it, didn't I? And yoga. Oh. See, if I promise things to you, I then have to go and do them. And Will says it's important to be kind to yourself. Be nice to people, but not if your own needs don't get met. I like pottering as a way to relax. Totally agree with you, Will. And one of the things that I've said this before, but one of the great joys of giving up drinking for me was I was always quite hungover every other day because I didn't drink every day because I couldn't drink on a hangover. But every other day I did have a hangover, and it meant that I didn't have small, tiny interactions in the day because I was always tired. I always generally speak to somebody on the tube or get some eye contact, or I have a chat with somebody at a till, at a checkout, or I pass someone in the street and have a joke. And suddenly, after I gave up drinking, those small, tiny daily interactions went from hardly any to a massive number of delightful interactions, including one that was wonderful where I cheekily went under somebody else's umbrella, because it's a really big umbrella, walking down the Strand one day, as you do. And I had this wonderful conversation with a guy that lasted the length of the Strand as we shared his umbrella. And then he crossed the road with me so that I could keep under his umbrella before he then went off. And it was just an interaction that I thought, without the energy and the gumption and the lack of shame that I now have, I was able to have that interaction. Those things energize me in a way that I cannot describe. And that fulfills a need in me, but also is a way to be kind and lovely to people in what is a massive city. So that's cool. Does anyone else go lower when they drink? I think everybody goes lower when they drink, even if it's not at that precise point in time, Sophie. When the happy endorphins are going, people can feel quite happy. But the slump the day after, because of course alcohol isn't just one thing. It messes with your mind, it messes with your body, it messes with your metabolism, it messes with your mood, it messes with everything, and that means that you can't pinpoint always what alcohol has done to you beyond the physical effects the following day. And most people will be able to describe the physical effects, but don't realise that over time, progressively, it's affecting their mood. And so you're right. And then if you add on to that the fact that, if you drink a lot, you begin to feel shame and embarrassment and all those things don't do your mental health any good either. So you're compounding a chemical effect with an emotional and social negative effects. And that can grow over time. And if you think about it, as I said before, our drinking's never been linear. And so over time, it's grown and grown and grown, and it may have gone back a bit, and then it may have grown a bit more, and so on. And so the effects of alcohol and what it does to you in terms of your mind and your body and your health compound and grow over time. And so now that you're trying to not drink, you need to unpick all those, and sometimes that will come in stages, and sometimes you'll unpick different parts of the puzzle at different points of time. Your mood may get better first, and then you'll feel better in your body, or vice versa. Don't forget that alcohol is a really is a poison, and it can, and actually taking it out your system, detoxing from alcohol is more dangerous than heroin, and you can get side effects, even mild side effects, even if you haven't been drinking a huge amount. And so you won't automatically feel positive. I will post a link to the side effects of reducing your drinking, but and stopping drinking. But it's important to remember that you won't always feel better immediately. But that doesn't mean that you should carry on drinking either, just because you don't feel better immediately. Because by carrying on drinking, you're compounding all those issues and giving yourself a bigger task in the future, giving your future you a really hard job. And I realised that I had to. That there's no logical order to this as well. You may find that by unpicking one thing like your job, which it was for me, released the ability to change my drinking, whereas I always thought I couldn't change job until I tackled my drinking, and it doesn't always work as logically as that either. So yes, it's this alcohol. I was about to say this isn't alcohol. Alcohol absolutely gets into every single bit of your mind and your body, and you need to get it out of your mind and your body in a variety of different ways, and that will take time and that will take practice. Think of it like changing your drinking as a daily practice, not a magic wand. Right. Janet says I was going to talk about sudden cravings. Yeah, well, I did. I didn't talk about it properly. I mentioned it as the fact that we get sudden cravings, and I know you're interested in this, Janet, because it's that feeling of discomfort that you get. And the other thing I've realised is there's a very difference between if you're a dependent drinker, you will get a craving that involves shakes because your body physically needs alcohol, and so that's and sometimes we confuse that with a craving that we have, which is our discomfort of not being able to have something that we want, because we're very used to being able to, deal with any need that we have at any point in time in this society. And the fact that we can't do something that we want to do, that we're depriving ourselves of something, suddenly feels very terrible and uncomfortable. And so I suggest that you do two things, that you look for a quick fix and you look for a 20-minute distraction. So the quick fix is saying, right, I know that I'm going to get a craving, and when I get a craving, I need to do something. I used to wander around the flat with, going, I just need to put something in my mouth. I just need to do something. So what are you going to do in that instant? Have you got your fridge full of things that you can use? Have you got, some soft drinks? Have you got some cold water? Just some water might actually do it, because we often drink because we're thirsty. Have you got some sweets hanging around, some chocolate? Have you got a quick task that you can do almost immediately? Is it washing up? I don't know. Maybe not. Is it loading the dishwasher? Have you got something you can do that will give you a sense of satisfaction really quickly? But we also know that feeling of discomfort doesn't go away so quickly. You'll still be going around the flat going, oh, I really wanted it, and I've been denying myself. That feeling doesn't go away very quickly. So you need something that will distract you from it for 20 minutes. And that could be cleaning the bathroom and doing some pottering like Will does. I'm totally with you, Will, on the pottering. But it could be doing some yoga, it could be doing some mindfulness, it could be phoning a friend, it could be reading a blog for 20 minutes, reading a chapter of a book for 20 minutes, it could be having a 20-minute lie down, it could be brushing your teeth, because then you don't want to drink anyway. Anything that will take you 20 minutes to half an hour that will help you get over that hump of discomfort, because as we said, that discomfort will go away, and it won't kill you. And over time, it will lessen and lessen and lessen. And that 20-minute distraction is in itself a practice. It's a practice that is taking you towards your goal and away from the behaviour that you didn't want before. So being able to get good at distracting yourself is a really important tool in this battle. So Jill sucks ice. Well, Jill, whatever your preference is, that's okay. We're not judging you. That's all I can say. A hotel chocolate and a litre of Diet Coke. Oh gosh, Helen, I just have this vision of you waking up in a hotel surrounded by chocolate wrappers. And people going, we don't know what she was doing. If only we had known. But anyway, okay, right, I'm going to leave it there. But please do carry on the discussion on the Facebook group. I'm really interested in your thoughts and ideas and questions. And like I said, I think this is a blog post I want to work on over a longer period of time. I'm going to go and finish my cascara and I'm going to have dinner, and then I'm also going to try and persuade UC to do one of these webinars one Sunday, because I think it'd be really good to hear a lot more about behaviour change science stuff, which he's particularly good at. Okay guys, have a good time and bye.